Hey, I wanted to sort of answer Scott's question about suggestions. He had kind of jokingly brought up, I guess it was jokingly, brought up the idea of somebody um, getting on like television and doing a terrorist act via suggestion or hypnosis or something along those lines. Um, and I guess the best way to put it is that might work. It depends on how big your audience is. Certainly, there's not going to be any giant percentage of people agreeing, but if you had a good size audience, it's not uh, out of the realm of possibility that there'd be one or two people who would go off and do whatever it is that you were suggesting that they do, um, just out of pure luck. Um, Most of the time with your suggestion, I guess one of the ways that you can kind of look at it is it's not just the suggestion. It's almost like you have your mind is like a safe. There's a combination of things that have to, 22 left, 13 right, 26 left. And when that combination hits, then whatever opens up. I guess the best way to to kind of explain it is to give an illustration. We once had a woman come to us for smoking cessation, and um, smoking cessation is a very difficult thing to do, regardless of whatever venue you're going to try to quit smoking. There's several studies, meta studies, that show that hypnosis is the most effective means of quitting. But at the 1 year quit rate, when they went back and checked the 1 year quit rate, and hypnosis was significantly better than the second place thing. The downside of that was, that number was around 20%. Um, but we would do it just simply because we were the best choice that someone had at that. So I don't like doing things in which I fail more than I succeed, but when you're the best game in town, okay, we would do it. And one of the ways that we would do it is, like, I would work with a person, and then if it worked, yay, and if later on it didn't work and they call up and goes, well, it didn't work, well, we would go, oh, okay. And then we would have them come back in, and we would do it again for free, only we'd have the other person work with them. um, and so one day, I, I worked with this woman, and no, Frederick had worked with her first, and it didn't work, and then I worked with her, and it didn't work. And she was very country. I mean, mountain kind of, comfortable not having front teeth, that kind of country. And she called back after the second time. She goes, "Well, y'all ain't doing it right." And we're like, "Well, what what did we do?" She goes, "You didn't use a watch to hypnotize me." And we're like, "Oh, okay." And so she came back in, and Frederick used a watch to hypnotize her, and then it worked. Now, none of that makes any difference. The procedure and what it is that you do, there's nothing magical about it. There's nothing. But in her belief system, in order for it to work, it needed to have somebody hypnotize her with a watch. And then what he ended up doing with it was, it sounded different to her, but from a construction sort of point of view, a technique point of view, it was the same technique we'd already used on her that had failed, but this time it was done with a watch, and it was done. The technique was done in a way in which, unless you knew about hypnosis, you don't know that the same technique is being used on you. I mean, different imagery is being used, different verbiage is being used, but the technique is the same. We even had one time where we both failed. And you could tell that the person didn't really think too highly of either me or Frederick. And we told him, well, what we'll do is we'll get the guy who trained us to come in, and the big guns, and we'll have them come in and work with him. And the big guns was some guy who was currently in our hypnosis class, who looked, he was actually a trustee at the university, and he looked like, if you were going to do central casting for a senator, that's what he looked like. I mean, he had the $2,000 suit, and the gray hair, and he looked like wisdom, and reduced. I mean, but he came in and he worked with her, and it worked. And after we told her, we're going to bring in the guy who really knows what's going on, and he was just a student. But it's a nice illustration of what kind of has to happen in order for it to work. Technique-wise, knowledge-wise, I know everything, obviously, that the student knew. We taught him how to do what it is that he did. But he had to be the one in place to give that suggestion for her to take it, instead of me or instead of Frederick. So that's a pretty good example of why, like, somebody just can't get on TV and give mass instructions. Hold on just a second. Yeah, so that's kind of a quick answer, or maybe not so quick, answer to kind of why somebody couldn't just get on TV and do that. But it could work. And once again, it has to be that specific sort of combination of things. Like for instance, I was going through the